Um, let's see here. All right, y'all. How you doing? You know, today I'm not going to have a panel. This is going to be a one-woman show this morning. And I want to welcome everybody in the chat. Shalom to everyone. And I'm shocked, my brother is here, my real brother. You may see his name flashing by, Gary Thomas. That's my brother. He's in the room. And I know you're not going to be here long because you're at work. So everybody, I did a video on ADOS, and part of it is the Breakfast Club and Bernie Sanders being on there. So I'm going to play this for you in its entirety. Shalom, everybody coming into the room. Shalom to everybody. Good morning. What's up, Santee and Cheetah and the Lady of Soul 502, The Bottom Line, Santee Walden, Craig J. Wow, Ruby Flower, Jamal Bay, Dwight, Louis Jake, Sugar and Spice, S. Wiseman, Chris Robb Media TV, Quinice Randolph, X TC1, Brenda Hill, Nia Sky, Miss Seeking Wisdom, Anthony Bates, S. Wiseman, Shawnette W, Xander, Cayman, Nook Nook, Gary. Let me see. I just don't want to miss anybody. Johnny, Corel Bickham, Tanika, how you doing? All right. Chima, Melanated Magic TV, Black Kingman. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. I am so happy to see each and every one of you. Najah Johnson. All right. Hovan Lawrence. All right. I think that's everybody. I sure didn't mean to miss you intentionally if I did. All right, let's get started, everybody. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right, just give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Give me a 1. Okay, okay. Okay. All right, let's get started. They say we need them. They say we need them. But one thing these same people that say we need them don't tell you is they had to rig up a whole system, sabotage us every step of the way, torch our towns, sabotage you on jobs along the way. So the need is very unnatural and it's a rigged up need. Okay? It is not something that comes naturally at all. Now, if we begin with a timeline on what happened to us and what continues to happen to us to this day, it will tell the story on how we've been rigged up throughout every single century. There has been no century that has gone past, including the one we're sitting in, where things were not rigged up against us. So the need we have is very unnatural, artificial, not normal. And that's ultimately why it will fall apart. Now, I just want you to look at this list. I'm not going to read the list, but I'm going to leave it up long enough for you to look at it. And what I want to say to you all is be prepared for the retaliation for hashtag ADOS. They're already plotting behind the scenes to shut down these channels that are talking about hashtag ADOS. They are already planning to get their race soldier cops on the street to start stepping up on gunning us down. Because whenever they retaliate on us, it's always the same exact way. It's never going to be anything new. Just understand that. We are now rising up against their system. And this is absolutely what they don't want. See, they want that Negro to need them because that's what they did. They rigged up the whole system for you to need them. All through rigging, not natural. So let's go down the list a little more here. So we have to be prepared for the same old attacks on us, the same retaliation that we have seen all throughout history because they never change in what they do. It's going to be more of the same. Now, isn't it ironic that it has come to this? Now, they've been saying to us all this time, go back to Africa, go back to Africa. Now we're trying to break free from you, and you're trying to keep us around. We have asked, no, we're not asking. We have demand reparations. And all we see are people dancing around. The way they have been saying go back to Africa all through the centuries, ladies and gentlemen, they were saying this to slaves out on the fields in the plantations. Oh, well, if you don't like what you're doing, go back to Africa. They've been saying it that long. Can you imagine someone on the same shit for 500 years? Well, it's true. It's just incredible, isn't it? So you would think people that had those kind of attitudes about us leaving and going back to Africa, they'd be happy to go to the negotiating table to get rid of us. But as we have seen over the past few weeks, it's been less enthusiasm among them about us going out here and going to Africa, hasn't it? Mm-mm-mm. No matter what happens, the truth will always be revealed. Never forget that. The truth will always come out. Now, this list is lacking many things because it does not have the crack epidemic. It does not have mass incarceration and many of the other things that happen. They don't have the police brutality on there. And of course, all of the protesters that have been killed. So it's lacking many things that should be on there, additional things. But look, it's a good start. All right. So now, since the Civil War, the wealth gap has gotten worse between Black and white for many obvious reasons. Number one, after the Civil War, Black towns were set up because these folks literally shut us out of the economy. They didn't want us in their economy, ladies and gentlemen. And those of you that are trolls, don't come to my channel talking about, well, where's that information? Over here, I don't look up information for trolls. We have the World Wide Web and search engines all over it. You have the ability, since you have a high IQ, to look this up, stuff up for yourself. I don't look things up for trolls. So when you come over here with that, you will be ignored. You got everything at your fingertips, just like I do. So we know how we have been disenfranchised all the way up to the 21st century. And the differences economically between Black and white people are still extremely obvious. It is not, and let me repeat this, it is not because the Black community did not try. We had 200 towns torched that we built ourselves. We had our own economy, but that was stolen through, that's what the white mobs were for, to destroy, kill, and steal. We had Black Wall Street, which went on for 15 years, and they dropped bombs on it. So no one can make the claim that we did not try. We did try. But every time we would try, we would get sabotaged. That's why I'm telling you the need we have is very unnatural and artificial. If it was a natural need, we would not be making attempts to ask for, demand reparations, and pull away from this American society that has done us wrong consistently for 500 years. Now, these politicians have been knowing about this wealth gap for centuries, y'all. This is nothing new. This did not just manifest itself not long ago. This has been going on for centuries. They have done nothing. We are sitting at 2019. They have done nothing to fix this wealth gap. You can't point to one century where they did something about it and it worked, and we are all on the same footing now. The politicians all throughout history have sabotaged the Black community. They have done and put policies in places to hurt us. Even to this day, cops are shooting us unarmed when we're not even a threat. And still, these politicians sit in office and put policies in place to protect the cops, and no policies in place to protect the Black citizens. Politicians have been our worst enemies all throughout the centuries. And you can just, you know them by their fruits, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at what they vote on and look at how excluded we are the majority of the time. Unless they're trying to move some legislation on crime bills that they know that will hurt us more than anyone else, that's the only time we pop up in their minds. They don't think about us any other time. Banks in America created the ghetto by means of redlining. Redlining still goes on. Again, it's been going on for decades. Where are the politicians to stop the banks? And I'm going to tie this all together. It will make sense. Where are the politicians to put policies in place to stop the banks from doing all of this redlining, which created the ghettos in the inner cities? That did not manifest itself out of thin air. They created this situation through redlining. Now, ladies and gentlemen, although there are disparities, well-known disparities when it comes down to income, they still want that Black dollar. That's what they want more than anything, y'all. All right? There's a reason why We have been asking for reparations, and they keep turning around talking about programs. There's a reason why. Now, I've listened to many videos, and the videos are good, and please keep it up. But none of you are getting to the meat of why we keep saying reparations and they keep saying programs. Programs. No, we can't give you reparations, but I got this program for everybody. Here's another program for everybody. I got this plan and these programs for everybody. Look, if programs worked, we would have seen it by now. They already got programs in place, ladies and gentlemen. Are they working for us? Now, we are supposed to believe politicians that have no history of creating policies exclusively for Black people, but we are supposed to continue to trust the same system that have sabotaged us, stole from us, look the other way when we're being lynched, look the other way when we're being gunned down by cops. And yes, we're still being lynched, and you're conveniently slapping a suicide tag on it. You're not fooling us. Okay, but these are the same politicians that are looking us in the face and believe they should dismiss our demands for reparations and exchange that for programs that have no history of ever working out in a good way for the Black community. They got tons of programs out here in America. Tons. Look them up. All kinds of programs. And when it comes down to the Black community, all programs have been failures. And it's going to continue to be failures. There's something to be said when politicians don't even want to make a program for the Black community who they know this government and its citizens and its immigrants have done wrong all this time. Their solution is a program for everyone. And the more we keep asking these politicians to step up, the more they're going to stand in our face blabbing about programs that has no history, no legacy of ever working well for the Black community. If it did, why didn't it close up the wealth gap? Why didn't it create better schools? Why are we in 2019 still talking about better schools? Why are we in the 21st century still talking about wealth gaps if your programs work? Racism in America is stronger than ever. Hell, you got Cory Booker that said when it comes down to blackface, where we're clearly being mocked, we need to put ourselves in white people's shoes. These are the kind of politicians we are dealing with, y'all. It's almost comical, but it's real. We're going to get into the recent interview that Bernie Sanders did on The Breakfast Club. And it is just the same old Politricks. I guess we can call it a pile of tricks because that's all it is. He is not talking anything that I would remotely be interested in. What he's offering, I don't want it. I don't want it. Just understand. And no, I'm going to play the video. I'm not going to. I'm going to get to it after this is done. Let me go ahead and play the video. This is the Breakfast Club, March 4th, 2019. An interview with Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, sir? I'm great. How are you guys doing? So Bernie, 44 out of 45 presidents in this country have been white men. Do you think we need another one?
Well, I think you need this one. Look, we are living in an unprecedented time. We have the most dangerous president in modern history of this country, somebody who is a pathological liar, a fraud, a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe,
Man, a cheat.
now you're just getting warmed up here. Now, this is a bad news, guy. The most important thing that has got to happen is that this dangerous president is defeated. I'm going to do everything I can to defeat him. I look forward to winning the Democratic nomination. And if I don't, I will support anybody else who's out there to defeat him. But this guy cannot win another term.
Why run again last
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. We ran in 2016, as you guys know, we were here. And I'm proud of the campaign that we ran. If you think back, and I want you just to think back a few years ago, think about the issues that we ran on. We said that we cannot continue to have a minimum wage in this country of $7.25 an hour, starvation wage. That we're going to fight for a $15 an hour minimum wage. And you know what I was told back then 4 years ago? Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
What was I told?
Yes, it was insane.
It was insane. It was crazy. Can't happen. Well,
$15.
since then, 5 states have already passed that. I was told that the United States is going to join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a right to a Medicare for all single-payer program. Once again, Bernie, you're crazy. Can't be done. Today, a strong majority of the American people understand that it is insane that we have 30 million people with no health insurance, or we're underinsured, and that we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Okay, we're making progress on that. I was told that it was crazy to talk about making public colleges and universities tuition-free, so that every kid in this country has the right to go to college regardless of his or her income. Well, ain't such a crazy idea now. Cities, states are beginning to move in that direction. So to answer your question, we made progress in 2016 in taking on all of the big money interest in this country, taking on Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies. We made progress. Obviously, we have a long, long way to go. And I want to complete the political revolution that we began.
What will you do differently, though, this time?
I have been criticized. My 2016 campaign, remember that campaign? We started like with 4 people. My wife Jane is here. She was one of them. 4 people around our kitchen table. And then the campaign grew and we took on the whole establishment. We ended up winning 22 states and 13 million votes. This time we're starting from a very different position. We were criticized for being too male. That was a correct criticism. Too white. That was a correct criticism. That is going to change. We'll have a much more diverse campaign. We've already announced our co-chairs. I think many of you know Nina Turner.
Nina Turner. I love Nina Turner.
And you should love Nina Turner. Nina Nina worked with me in 2016.
All right, let me just stop them right there. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing that Bernie Sanders has said helps the Black community. They had all of those programs in place and it just did not crop up overnight. None of those things have helped us. We are still in a very bad position in this country. We still need to do something about the unequal playing field, which has been deliberately set. And Bernie Sanders is not addressing that in this interview. You know, I've listened to it and it's disappointing to me. It's disappointing that we're in 2019 and these candidates are not bringing the Black community anything. You could probably listen to candidates that ran in the 70s. And the message, they don't deviate from this message at all. When the other candidates come out, they're going to be talking the same thing. Oh, well, we've made progress. We're not seeing any of that progress. I mean, no defense, but why should I sit around listening to you babbling about progress that my community doesn't see? Progress that doesn't impact our lives much. And because of all of the racial disparities that we're facing, it doesn't matter what policies they put in place, we're not going to be the biggest beneficiary of it. And they want to keep it that way. They want the invisible chains to stay on us. Period. That this is what they want. All right, let me just play a little more.
It's paid for, right? The same way we pay for public education, right? And we don't come out with a nickel bill. I think that's the right thing. Wait, okay. So you ask me how we pay for it. Right now, we are paying twice as much per capita for healthcare as they do in Canada, because they don't have a system which enables the drug companies and the insurance companies to make huge profits. Their system is simpler.
Let's just jump ahead more.
Is expunge the records of people arrested for marijuana. I believe in that very strongly.
This is a question that we've been asking of all Democrats.
The decent housing, so they don't come back to jail. But criminal justice reform is a huge issue for me.
Do you feel like you would be right?
You know, that's the only thing they have in mind for Black people. But think about this. Even criminal reform has pretty much been a bust for the Black community. As long as we are still the ones that are disproportionately arrested, disproportionately put in prison without being convicted of a crime, because that is very prevalent in America. You got more people sitting in prison that have never been convicted of a crime than the ones that actually committed crimes. And the fact that you got your system set up to put people in there for petty as non-violent drug possession tells me you can't get us on the most violent crimes, even if it depended on your mama's life. That's why you got petty crimes to keep pulling Black people in prison in droves. See, petty crimes, y'all, have been their best friend when it comes down to mass incarceration. They don't want it to end. That's why they gladly grab you up for a bunch of nothing and still continue to sit in your face and tell you that's justified. That shit ain't justified. You're just a bunch of petty ass MFers. That's what the problem is. But let's go on.
Wrong, because you did sign the 94 crime bill.
They signed it. I voted for it.
We voted for it.
Yeah.
We voted for the 94 crime bill, which started a lot of this mass incarceration.
I voted for that because for a couple of reasons. I mean, you know, one of the things, it's a fair question, but as you know, a lot of bills have a lot of stuff in it. And if I hadn't voted for that, you would be saying to me, how come you voted against the Violence Against Women Act? How come you voted against the effort to deal with some gun safety legislation, which was included in that? That was
okay, so you vote to mass incarcerate a group because other things were in it? I promise you, if that was a mass incarceration bill that would impact people that look like Bernie Sanders, it wouldn't matter what other things were in that bill. He would not have gone for it. But he knew who it was going to impact the most. That's why he went for it. See, they associate crime only exclusively with us, although all of these other people, including immigrants in this country, commit all kinds of crimes. We are in a very rigged up system. And politicians like Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, all participate in these type of policies, and they're happy and patting themselves on the back over it. Bernie Sanders couldn't explain this away. I don't care how much he tries. He signed something that ultimately destroyed the Black community and something we never could bounce back from. They have always separated us, our families, parents from their children, and they use laws to do it, to make it appear, well, it's legitimate, it's legal, you know, we can mass incarcerate you, we signed this law. Remember, these are the same people, these are the offspring of the ones that came up with Black codes and slave codes. Those laws came out of their minds. And this tough on crime bill came out of their minds. And they knew what it would do to us. And they carried it out anyway. I don't forgive the Clintons. I don't forgive them. And I don't forgive Bernie Sanders for signing that bill. I don't forgive any of them. Let's go on.
Ban us, and I recall banning assault weapons, something that I believed in. So it was, but if you also noticed, at exactly that period, I talked about the dangers of mass incarceration. So it was one of those, and it happens, it may happen tomorrow. You got a bill which has some bad stuff in it, has some good stuff, you make your choice.
So you feel like you'd be right in the wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is
okay. When mass incarceration was at its height, Bernie Sanders was in office at that time. He could have stood up and said, wait a minute, look at what's happening. We need to put policies in place so this doesn't spiral so far out of control. Did he do that? He was in a position to do it. He was in Congress. Did he do it? No. I don't want to hear about righting the wrongs. I don't want to hear it because it's very disingenuous. He doesn't mean any of this shit he's saying. Trust me, y'all, he don't mean any of it. Let's go on.
This is an issue we've got to deal with. Too many lives are being destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of people get criminal records, you know why? Because they have smoked marijuana, they could cope with marijuana. That's insane. And as you know, this is a racial issue in the sense that if I think blacks and whites smoke marijuana about equal time, blacks get arrested a hell of a lot more. And what we also want to do, and some communities are meeting to do this, is expunge the records of people arrested for marijuana. I believe in that very strongly.
This is a question that we've been asking of all Democrats. Does Bernie Sanders have an agenda for Black people?
Absolutely. We start off, as I mentioned, with massive disparity in the general population. Very few have a lot. Most people have nothing. Then you got another form of disparity, which is a wealth disparity. All right. So right now, you have the white community, the average white family, only 10 times more wealth than the average Black family. You have a health disparity. Infant mortality rates in the Black community, I think 2.5 times what they are in the white community. You got an education disparity. We talked about a criminal justice disparity, where African Americans are much more likely to be arrested and put in jail. Those are disparities that have got to be addressed. There is a friend of mine, Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. Yeah. Representative Clyburn came up with an idea, which I think we should build on. He called it 10-20-30, which says that you focus federal resources on those communities most in distress. And at the same time, you got to deal with institutional racism. I remember redlining, for example. If you're a small business person, I talked to a guy in Milwaukee last year, and he had, it seems to be a moderately successful business agent. I'm going black guy. I'm going to the banks. I can't get a loan. So we got to deal with racism and discrimination within the financial.
All right. Who owns the banking institutions in America? Who owns the banking institutions? The people that look like Bernie Sanders. They are the ones that kept all of these policies in place to make sure you can't even get a loan for a business, but some immigrant can cross the ocean, barely speak English, come in the Black community and set up shop. But you could live there your whole life and have a desire to set up a store. Don't have bad credit. You walk in the bank and they deny you. That's what's done in America. And Bernie Sanders know this. It don't take 500 years, y'all, to clear that situation up. We have been sabotaged on purpose. And Bernie Sanders know this. All of this talk is just pacifying babble. That's all it is. We have heard politicians talk like this for decades. And here in 2019, banks are still denying Blacks, giving you higher interest rates on homes and cars, still redlining. All of those things are still happening. He hasn't said anything that I haven't either heard before but nothing ever changes. But let's go on.
Services committee within the financial services industry. You got payday lenders. My God, unbelievable. You know what the interest rate?
Who owns those payday loan businesses? People that look like Bernie Sanders. It's a fact.
And then rip it off on the most vulnerable and poorest people. So to answer your question, we do have an agenda. And it's an agenda that we will fight vigorously for.
Yeah, that's why I would like to see federal, what you just said about the banks, I would like to see federal government put more support into the Black banks.
Absolutely.
I feel like that could help Black entrepreneurs.
And not only Black banks.
homeowners as well.
And Black homeowners, but Black business in this sense.
Correct.
In this sense. Unemployment now is quote unquote relatively low. But you go to African American communities and the youth unemployment rate is still unbelievably high. And you tell me, please tell me, what happens if you're a kid who drops out of high school who has no money?
You're probably going to turn into a life account.
You got it. What a waste. What a waste. You know, we got to invest in those things. We're invest in housing. A lot of people in the African American community not making a lot of money, spending 50% of their income in housing, childcare.
And what about HBCUs? It's
Absolutely.
very big for our community.
It is. It is.
The support is very big.
It is very big. They, I don't know the numbers, but as you know, a significant number of African American teachers, academics, professionals come out of the HBCU system, and they do a great job, and they're underfunded. So when I talk about making most of the, as I recall, most of the HBCUs are a public institution, some are not.
Now, I want you to think about what he said. And he's right. You know, I had a lot of friends that went to HBCUs, and many of them became school teachers. They couldn't get work within their own Black communities to teach school. Those jobs went overwhelmingly to white females. To this day, the Black community is still overwhelmed with a bunch of white female teachers. And the people that live within the community with degrees, graduate students, they still can't get those jobs close by. And those disparities will continue on. How do you sabotage a group? You send in teachers that don't look like them to educate them, which we're not being educated at all. We already know that. And that's a disparity he has not even touched on. Just listening to Bernie Sanders, just understand it will be status quo when he gets in office, if he were to win. And he's just letting us know, we're going to do this. We got to talk it up to make it seem like we really care. The payday loans in the banks and those owners look just like him. And they have for centuries, y'all. This is why nothing is changing. They have usurped all of the businesses and banking and every industry out here. Look, you got laws in place for housing discrimination, but housing discrimination still goes on all the time. Oh boy, let's go on.
But we are going to pay a lot of attention to them.
Now, why does it seem like this week you've been kind of dodging the reparations question? Senator Harris and Senator Warren have both kind of spoken out and said that they agree with some form of reparations.
Well, the question is I'm not dodging the question. The question is, what do we mean by reparations?
Now, Bernie Sanders knows what everybody means by reparations because he is a Jewish man and they get reparations. He knows what it is. And his response to this is so disingenuous. Your people get reparations, been getting reparations for damn near over 60 years. You know what reparations are. It's a deflection, a major deflection. Let's go on.
I mean, it seems to me a lot of people mean a lot of different things. To my mind, it means that we have to deal with the fact that there is enormous disparity between the Black community and the white community. And that issue has got to be addressed. And I've indicated to you some of the ways that I think it should be addressed.
Well, I think they mean some type of economic empowerment to the African descendants of slaves.
But what does that mean, economic empowerment?
Okay. He knows what it means, y'all. He knows what it means because his people get physical money for reparations over the Holocaust. So when he says, what do you mean? He knows exactly what it is. They have been getting reparations for decades, starting back in 1952, all the way up until now. They have been consistently getting reparations in the form of money and all kinds of things for Israel, all kinds of programs, freebies. He knows what reparation is. But I'm going to let this all play and I'm going to explain why he does not want the Black community to have physical money like the Jews got and are getting to this day. Let's go on.
I just talked about the fact that I would do my best to change the banking system to make sure that we end racism and we pay attention to distressed communities, that people get the loans they need to make the investments they need.
About straight cash payouts.
Well, how much was that?
Okay. So he wants to offer us something that is totally different from what his people are getting, which is money and other things in the form of reparations. So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, if we allow him to do what he said about allowing banks, fixing the banks so they can give us more loans and yada, 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 will this really change the Black community? Will this really change when we have seen policy after policy for decades and seen minimal change in the Black community? Listen to what he's saying. Oh, well, you can have more loans and invest in, better opportunities with banking. Will this really, truly change the Black community for all of us as a whole? No. No. And he knows this. Bernie Sanders knows this. He knows this. It's not going to change anything. And trust me, these banks are going to have requirements that they know the average Black person can't meet. They know it. They rigged the shit up, y'all. But let's go on.
Why don't you agree with that?
Well, first of all, you mean just a check to every African American?
Yes.
Well, and it's a check to every Native American who wiped out when the settlers first came here. I think the way we go forward is to build America together. There are distressed communities, white communities.
Okay, listen, y'all. There are communities Black people can't even live in. For him to suggest we who have been sitting in the last seat for 500 years should come together with people that did not suffer in the same way and help build America, that is insulting for him to even address Black people the way that he is.
Distressed Latino communities. Right now, what you have is a government owned and controlled by big money interests who worries about Wall Street and the drug companies. We're going to change that. And we're going to pay attention to the needs of working families and low-income families in this country in a way that you've never seen.
But this government has also systemically oppressed us in a way that they haven't oppressed other communities through slavery, through segregation, now mass incarceration. And I think it should be something done specifically for African Americans.
Well, and all of those issues, all right, we are going to deal with mass incarceration. And we're going to invest. I think at the end of the day, if we end the discrimination that exists in financial services, in healthcare, in education, if we guarantee healthcare to all people, if we, and we're working on a particular program, make sure that every person in this country has a job, because there's enough work to be done dealing with climate change, dealing with our crumbling infrastructure, I would suggest to you that not only the African American community, but every community will be.
Okay, we didn't ask him about every community. You see how these politicians talk? The question was specifically asked for the Black community. We didn't ask for every community. We didn't ask about the Hispanics. We didn't ask about everyone. But their question, when they answer a question, it always go back to that everybody crap. Everybody did not go through 500 years of continuous hell like we have. So I don't want to hear no everybody in these answers. So as far as I'm concerned, Bernie Sanders can hold up a big L when it comes down to addressing our issues, which I don't expect more from him. But let's go a little further with this now. I'm getting off of the interview. It's so annoying. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk real about why Bernie Sanders won't give Black people money. We have been the cash cow in America, the ones they've been profiting off of through all industries since we've been spending on their economy. Remember, initially, they didn't want us on their economy at all. But now that we are spending $1.2 trillion every single year, they don't want to let you go. It's all about money. Just understand why they won't let you go. It's all about capital. Who owns most of these industries that we are spending our consumer dollars in? Sure ain't us. Who owns most of the sports and entertainment in this country? It's not us. If they give us up and they give us that check and we leave and start our own businesses, buy our own land, and get our own industries up and running. They lose all of that revenue. These business owners are people like Bernie Sanders. And he's not going to risk giving us checks so we can walk away from his friends and families that own the banking industry and own the retail markets and own all of these industries that we have little to no ownership in. So giving us a check cuts off all the revenue. Because many of us will leave America. Many of us will go off and start our own thing. That's not what they want. They need you to stick around and keep pouring money in all of these industries that they own. It's a capital decision not to give the Black community reparations. Now you will say, oh, well, you'll spend all the money back out here. Yes, but you will also start your own things and start becoming independent from the people that have been subjugating us all this time. If we leave this economy and start our own, like a Black Wall Street, start another one, who stands to lose the most in that? They do. This is why every time we bring up reparations, they bring up programs. And they're going to keep playing this game with us. They're going to keep playing this game with us, y'all, until they get tired of it. And then the retaliation will begin because we are fighting their system and they don't like it. But it is for capital reasons that Pharaoh don't want to let us go. See, this is not just a fight for reparations. It is a fight for our freedom. We want to truly be free. We don't want citizens overseeing us. We don't want your cops overseeing us. We don't want any of those things. We want to really, truly be free. But because of capitalism, they won't let us be free. So we're going to have to dig in for the long haul on this fight. The way I see it, if we lose, we win because we shook up their world. If we win, we win. There is no losing in this whole thing for us, technically. Because, see, the world is now sitting back and watching how they're going to handle us in this whole thing. If they come out too harsh, that's going to go out globally. See, they don't have the luxury of doing these things, and nobody on this earth knows about it. Social media has changed everything, y'all. It's exposing all of those bogus phone calls. It's exposing all of the police shootings. It is exposing all of the racist rants out in public. All of this is going out worldwide. And believe me, they care about how it looks. Now, they may be saying something totally different behind the scenes, but they also know they better address us very carefully and not come off too harsh. Well, if nothing, look, we got them dancing around the fire, ladies and gentlemen. And we are getting them to reveal their true selves and how they are for reparations for natives, Japanese, and the Jews, but oppose reparations for the builders of this nation, the ones that created the economy that they get to enjoy today. Look up slave economy, y'all. Just look up slave economy. If it was not for that slave economy, America's economy wouldn't be where it is today. If it wasn't for that slave economy, this globe would not see the economy that they are looking at today. America owes us for work that was done, for laws and discrimination that they still have in place to this day. The world owes us. The entire globe owes us for the economic power that it has today. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if nothing else, we are shaking up their world right now. We are shaking up their world, and they don't know what to do. All we're seeing right now are a bunch of politicians that are stumbling and falling. But no, they don't want to give us reparations because it is an economic suicide for them if we're no longer participating in their economy. And that's what this is all about. If we pull out and have our own because we're paid, people like Bernie Sanders that owned all of these businesses and banks and everything, it would be over for them. Them losing us is economic suicide. They have never ran America without using us in some kind of capacity, ever. With slavery is still here. It's behind bars called the prison industrial system. It's still here. So, they'll sit and say, well, I never had a slave. Technically, you did. Your slaves are through the government behind bars. Those are your slaves today. So yes, America still has slaves through mass incarceration. They still have slaves. And if they really don't want any association with slaves, then they would never have come up with the 13th Amendment. The fact that they came up with that tells me they are fine with slavery. Don't have no problem with it. So don't come in our faces talking about you didn't have a slave, but you still got that 13th Amendment out there. You can miss me with all of that talk. See, if we get paid, ladies and gentlemen, they know we cut them off. We will cut them off. And they have this artificial, man-made, rigged up relationship with us right now that they will never be able to maintain if we get paid. Many of us know we're going to let go of these work relationships. We're going to let go of their businesses. We're going to let go of their education and start doing for self with that check. And that's absolutely what they don't want to see. This is why your politician keeps bringing up programs and we keep bringing up reparations. It's right now, it's a tug of war going on. The only thing we have to do is stand strong and just know this may be a long fight. So we can't throw in the towel after about a month or two. You have to be in this for the long haul, y'all. Because that's what it's going to take. The only thing we need to do is keep demanding the reparations and our freedom. Those are the two things we want. We want to be free and we want our reparations. We don't want to be bogged down in a system that hates us. That is old and played out now. And we want no part of it. Yeah, it's what I call August Dreams. I call it a toxic relationship. You know, liberation is not going to be easy, y'all. No one said it was going to be easy. No, we don't need, you know, they're going to throw a lot of people up in our faces that we know are completely disconnected with the Black community. They may look Black on the outside, but they are totally disconnected. We don't care what those folks have to say. And I'm not going to sit and tolerate them parading these folks in front of me because I know what the intent is. Right. You know, they're a parasite that's afraid of losing their host. We're the host. And see, it scares them when they hear us say we are tired of this whole thing. We want our reparations and we want to move on. And that's talk they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear anything about you leaving, no matter what they say about you leaving and go back to Africa. They really, truly can't afford to lose us. Just remember, losing us means they lose America. They literally lose America when they lose us. This is why Bernie Sanders and Kamala and all of them are talking the way that they are. They have to keep steering us away from the reparation talk and keep putting programs in our face. And we don't want programs. So we got to keep telling them, no, we didn't come here talking about programs. We came here talking about reparations. See, programs mean they get to implement something and oversee it. And see, that's why they want to keep talking to you about programs, because then they can add all kinds of stipulations and rules and policies and still be our overseers. But reparations liberates us for real. So there is a difference in programs and reparations. We don't need any more overseers. There's way too many police, citizens, and government trying to just dominate us constantly. And it's just, it's to the point where we're tired. We don't want what they're offering anymore. What might have been good enough a few decades ago is not good enough now. It's unacceptable. Thank you for coming today, y'all. And we'll definitely be doing this again. I plan on stepping up my hangouts. I'll be having them a lot more often. And I might alternate on doing it on this channel and my other channel. So if you don't have the notification on, please turn on the notification. And I know YouTube plays all kinds of games, y'all. I'm fully aware. But hit on the notification, because I might not always give you warnings on when I will be cropping up with a live stream. But you all have a wonderful day. And keep your heads up, y'all. One thing they can't say is how we feel is real. Not like an artificial, rigged up, needful relationship. How we feel about reparations is for real. Peace, family.